All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending our webinar this afternoon on the subject of the future of ERP solutions. Quick round of introductions. My name is Grantley Smith. I'm a Senior Solution Architect at TGO Consulting. And my panelists today with me are Walter and Puneet. Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourselves quickly, Walter?
Sure. Thank you, Grantley. My name is Walter Tora. I'm the VP of Consulting at Litcom, and we do a fair amount of IT strategic planning, IT advisory services, package selection, and manage implementations. I've got a 15-year background in ERP implementation across small, mid, and large solutions.
Thanks. And Puneet?
Yeah, this is Puneet Nayyar here. I'm representing Resources Global Professionals, RGP. And like Walter, I also have 15 years of experience in ERP systems, mostly the Tier 1 to largest ERP systems. I've been on at least 12 to 15 different ERP projects, right from new implementations to upgrades and so on.
Thanks very much for joining us. So TGO Consulting, your host for the day. We are an ERP implementation company specializing in putting in complex ERP solutions. So let me set up a bit of background for everybody today. So we wanted to just take a look at some interesting statistics here. So the first one we have, some of the challenges that are facing IT right now. One of the biggest ones, which is hot topic on everybody's list right now, is the consumerization of IT. And the statistic that's being bandied around right now, 50% of business devices are expected to be smartphones by 2014. That's next year. That's actually only a couple of months away. So half of all of the technology devices in a typical organization will be a smartphone. Second statistic, 84% of organizations already have some form of a remote workforce. That obviously varies from organization to organization in terms of what those remote individuals are doing, but 84% of companies already have a distributed remote workforce. Third number for you, 85% of data center capacities are not being used. So in terms of infrastructure within organizations, technology infrastructure, platforms, servers, networks, bandwidth, all those other things, 85% of the time, that very expensive infrastructure is sitting doing absolutely nothing. It's either out of office hours or it's not being used at all. Final number for you. That infrastructure that we just talked about represents, on average, 70% of an IT budget for an organization. So 70% of the spend in IT is on keeping that data center running, and that data center is doing nothing 85% of the time, which is quite interesting. Now, if we translate that into the challenges that businesses are now facing from a technology, and particularly an ERP standpoint, you'll find the following typical trends. Systems are getting older. People are not replacing applications as frequently as they used to. In part, that's because it's not necessary. And there was a trend a while back where ERP systems would turn over every 5 to 7 years within an organization. That doesn't happen anymore. So systems are getting older. The standard challenge, everybody wants more functionality for less money, and more so because of the cost of IT departments, large IT projects are getting turned down more frequently. People are looking for small enhancements, not big overhauls. Then there's the accessibility side of things. Everybody wants to be connected to their data, the data that manages their business all the time, wherever they are, through whatever medium they have available to them. And then finally, there's this concept that's come up in recent years of the cloud solution versus the on-premise solution, which actually speaks to some of the other points on this slide as well. So this is what's happening to IT departments, and this is what's happening to finance departments and to the systems within them. The demands are getting greater and greater, and the budget available for that is getting less and less, and systems are getting older. So with that in mind, I wanted to bring up for you the commercial side of all of these things, the commercial side of technology, because over the last 10 years it's been quite revolutionary. So here is an example. You may recognize one or more of these icons. You should recognize most of them. And as an interesting measure for what's going on in the commercial world, not the business world, this happened in a 24-hour period. So 2 billion videos were watched by people that don't have a video player or a DVD player or even maybe a television. They don't need it anymore. 17.1 million apps downloaded. 2 billion people went to Google to look for something. These numbers are vast and they're only getting bigger. And the interesting part about all of these statistics on this screen is that without exception, all of these are being done by people in varying ages with no training, no manuals, no technological challenges, no difficulties doing these things. It is not complicated to join Facebook and post stuff. I don't need instructions on that. I don't need video manuals on how to search for things on Google or how to find a video on YouTube, right? All of this is happening with virtually no knowledge being required in advance of doing these things. So the internet and the things connected to it and the applications around it are very, very straightforward. My 4-year-old can do this stuff better than I can. So why is this of interest to us in a discussion about ERP? Primarily it's because you won't see any of these logos anywhere near an existing ERP application. So basically our belief right now is that ERP is somewhat behind in terms of technological advances, and it's way behind what the rest of the world is doing. It's a little bit of a dinosaur, and primarily in 3 areas we think. Those 3 areas right now are ease of use. ERP systems are not traditionally easy to use for a number of different reasons. Accessibility. For a very long while, the financial systems of an organization, the operational systems of an organization have been very much chained to the desktop. So accessibility is not what it could be right now for a lot of applications out there. And then finally, business intelligence. And intelligence means a number of different things, and it doesn't just mean reports and charts, and we'll take a look at that as well in some of the areas where ERP has been massively outpaced by other applications and other areas of systems. So that's our conclusion, that ERP is right now behind the curve, and primarily in these 3 key areas. And there's a lot of overlap between these 3 areas, but what we're going to do is we're going to just take a quick round table on each of these 3 areas, see what people's experiences are, and also try and offer you some alternatives. If you've got an application that doesn't do these things and because of budgetary reasons, whatever, you're not going to replace it, is there anything that you can do with what you have right now? You will notice a theme running through all 3 of these, which is a theme very popular in everybody's ERP discussions right now, and that is one of mobility, and that comes up under all 3 of these categories. So we'll take a look at that as well. So our first category, ease of use. From a commercial standpoint, my favorite diagram for this is the iPad. Well, it could be the iPhone, could be the iPod, doesn't really matter. Real device simplicity. No manual, no input devices, 1 button, 1 store to go shopping in, 1 price for everything pretty much, which was a major success that Steve Jobs had in battling the music industry, who wanted to charge different prices for different songs. He just said, no, you can't do that, it won't work. So this is the very model of simplicity from an interaction standpoint for me. And you know, tablet of choice, it doesn't have to be an iPad, but just the concept of the tablet and the app world in general, very simple. To translate that into a business world, into an ERP world, ease of use, the things that you should be looking for, the look and feel of the application. Metro, Windows' wonderful new tiled interface was a brilliant idea, absolutely revolutionary. 1 interface, any platform, and they just released 8.1, and 8.1 allows you to turn all that off and put Windows back how it was, because that's what people were happy with. It's where they were comfortable. Navigation, look for systems that are simple, systems that have graphical navigation as opposed to text links and menus and those kind of things. And from a connectivity standpoint, ease of use for my money, and we'll ask the guys in a minute, ease of use for my money is how many different systems do you have to go in and out of to run your business? So from a connectivity standpoint, do they all talk to each other? Are they all in 1 application? And if not, is there a way that I can do this through extensions? Can I connect them together? Can I make them talk to each other? So ease of use as you know, drawback number 1. There's some ground being made here, but I think there's a lot more to go.
And Grantley, I'd really, echo your comment on, having one user interface to work with, because some organizations have tried to deploy, whether it's a specific app on an Android device that's custom engineered for that device, and then also have a Windows suite of Windows user interface for other users, and that dramatically increases the training cost and complexity of the system. So we see organizations deploying their ERP systems on Windows 8 tablets, for instance, so they have a common look and feel across all the devices that they use to make it easy to train and easy to sustain those systems.
Yeah, I think that's a lot simpler than having to jump between multiple different I mean, the Windows 8 type environment is flexible enough it will run in multiple different sizes of device and type of device, and I think as ERP applications start to move the same way, then consistency across those devices is going to be important.
Yeah. And also, I can't really appreciate the challenge that the large vendors have in trying to re-engineer their user interfaces to something as elegant as what Windows 8 does today. I mean, that's a massive undertaking on their part.
Well, everybody's been used to a mouse and a keyboard for so long, and the idea of just the interface that exists now with the smartphone devices, with the tablet devices, the interface itself is so just radically different to anything we're used to from an ERP standpoint.
Yeah.
And to add to that, Walter and Grant, on the flip side, the Tier 1 system that I've focused on the last few years, in that sphere, at least we have noticed that the application provider, they have introduced a number of apps for various mobile platforms. So just to give you an idea, for small businesses, this system is, that I'm talking about is geared to both very large and very large, as well as small and medium size. So they have a mobile app which is targeted to small businesses, and that mobile app, right from your iPhone or iPad, you can log in and you can get alerts on different events, like if there are any deviations from the approved price or credit limits. You can slice and dice the analytical data. And you can. It also has the sales potentials. You can view the sales opportunities, quotation, and even create orders right from there, or monitor inventory levels, etc. So we are definitely seeing some shift on the positive side.
In terms of the actual interface itself, Puneet, are you seeing a major difference between how it looks on a handheld device and how it looks in the traditional ERP desktop on the screen? Or are they trying to blend those together?
Yeah, I think it is in infancy stage right now. Although these apps are available, but its use is not as widespread right now. So I don't have the data right now, but definitely from what I have seen, the ease of it's not like like your 4-year-old can pick up the iPad and just intuitively understand and do what he wants to do. It's not. It does still require training manuals and so on. To your point you made earlier.
So they've not really met the small form factor interface yet.
Yeah, the apps are available, and the more enhancements are, done and more further anticipated. But it's not definitely the ease of use, the look and feel that you have mentioned. It's not because I think it's we have to think about the security as well. In order to keep the whole environment, the whole ERP integrated system secure. So there is some compromise on on the look and feel and ease of use for sure.
And one of the other things I've noticed on the desktop side of things is they're actually moving more towards the website style interface as well. There's going to be a major release coming out from Sage for their flagship product next year, where the whole front end of the desktop application even has been completely re-engineered to give you a website look and feel, and a website environment, graphical navigation, graphical objects on the screen instead of text menus and drop downs and stuff. So then on the desktop side, they're actually going the other way. They're becoming, they're becoming simplistic.
And you certainly see that from some of the, the vendors that have built their products from the ground up, to be, run over the cloud and on mobile devices. Like Salesforce comes to mind. Like they have quite an advantage in terms of being able to deploy their product in different environments because it's engineered that way from the ground up. But much more of a challenge for other vendors.
Right, for the guys that are traditional interface and are having to do it all over again.
Exactly.
Okay, so that leads us quite nicely into area number 2 where we feel ERP has been left behind. And again, all of these subjects are going to wash over each other because the underlying theme behind all of them is really some element of mobility because of those 50% of workforce devices that are going to be smartphones in 2 months' time. So accessibility means a number of different things. It's connectivity, it's the types of devices that you can use to get to things, it's how those devices synchronize or connect up in real time. And my favorite example is Sync, which sits in my wife's car. She has a Ford Escape, and it can do everything from managing the car's temperature and regulating the environment and running the stereo to telling you what the weather's going to be. When I mentioned that to our president, George, he very politely said, "Can't you just look out the window in front of you?" But accessibility, we can get to anything from anywhere, and we're doing it from a tablet on the sofa in front of the TV to our smartphones as we're rushing from one meeting to the next. And I think what we have to look for in terms of accessibility is start to consider things like cloud deployed applications or elements of cloud deployed applications, because that does give you that always available, always on, and not tied to a desktop capability again. Web clients are popping up more and more. I'm seeing more and more ERP applications with fully fledged web clients, which are kind of a hybrid solution. It's still on-premise, but you can access it with nothing more than a browser on a machine. There are mobile-specific, as Puneet was just saying, there are some mobile-specific apps, mini-apps, add-ins that have been developed for some of the ERP systems, for some areas of them, like to say maybe get CRM data out onto a mobile device for a salesperson, or perhaps order entry, seeing less of it in-house, on-premise so far, but I think that will come. And then again, if all else fails, if your application doesn't do any of these things, there are an awful lot, and the example on the screen is a company called Run BI. There are an awful lot of external independent extensions that will connect up to what you've got and expose it in a more accessible fashion through mobile devices. So accessibility is a serious conversation, and cloud, web, and devices are all a part of that discussion and should all be a part of assessing either a new ERP system or what you can do to get the data in your ERP system out of the building.
The cloud, we find a really emerging area, and that's because there's some massive service providers out there like Amazon that are offering pretty large customers private cloud services, and we've all seen the proliferation of departmental solutions like Salesforce, where that bypass the IT department are deployed via the cloud, unbeknownst to IT, and there are many specific service providers that provide solutions that are cloud-based that manage electronic health records for physicians, or other kind of operational systems that are being deployed. So there's a lot of instances of businesses running almost entirely over the cloud. However, to the point about ERP being left behind, except for SAP, I don't think there are any major ERP vendors that offer a cloud-based solution today. But that's emerging. We see that as a key decision point for organizations that have to replace their infrastructure. They're all evaluating the cloud to understand how secure it is, and if it can in fact be used to run their ERP systems.
And I suppose what we've noticed most of all is the reluctance of accountants to let their data go outside of the building, with the exception of NetSuite, and you can find good and bad comments on what they're actually doing. Then I haven't seen much in the terms of ERP migration to the cloud. Managed services, yes, but pure cloud, haven't noticed much yet.
Yeah, other than SAP, I have seen Oracle also moving in that direction with Oracle Fusion. So they are, it's getting more popular.
With Microsoft's release of Azure last year, their ERP applications are also now technically available on a cloud basis as well, but that's very new.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think the concern that large organizations have is, the large managed service providers, some of their data facilities are servicing cloud facilities are U.S. based, and so that brings the Patriot Act into place in the U.S. And everybody, asks that question. What would, is my data truly secure there? And in an ongoing basis with with that situation.
And they actually tested that with a couple of the major banks. Last year and a half ago, there was a major upheaval with a couple of the banks that were using cloud services, and the data was going down to the U.S., and the banks actually succeeded in proving it was secure.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that's convinced everybody else.
It just makes people nervous.
Yeah, totally. Have you actually noticed the cloud being used as an excuse not just to bypass IT, but also to bypass a CapEx requirement?
Oh. Absolutely. Software as a service. I mean, with today's pressure on profit margins and increased competition in the organizations, it reduces the capital outlay and also reduces the the infrastructure support that's necessary in the organization to reduce data center cost. But then there's the trade-off is the monthly fee.
Right. And there's a diminishing return on that the further you go into the agreement, right?
Yeah, correct.
And have you seen much, and I don't know if you've played very much, I've been working with a few different ERP agnostic extensions that are web-based mobile tools that are designed to plug into anything and present it, some of them CRM data, some of them sales data. Is anybody really using their iPad as a business device yet?
We aren't. And with the organizations that have develop those types of applications for themselves or have used third parties. I mean, there are integration issues that abound in terms of making sure that that accurate data is passed back and forth. But there are some great application development shops out there that are building these, and as long as they're partnered with the ERP vendor to ensure that the integration occurs correctly and it's maintained over the long range, that'll have more traction.
Yeah, I think it's important when assessing, if you are able to be in the position to assess a new ERP application, I think you have to look at their mobile plan and what they're planning on doing from a development standpoint. What does their roadmap look like? Because I think it's very convenient to be carrying around a mobile device, whether you're doing a stock count in the warehouse or whether you're a sales rep on the road. But again, making sure that roadmap is there and that they're heading in that direction and they're doing it in a robust fashion is something I think you have to look into, because some are and some aren't.
Yep, I agree. That's increasingly important.
I know, for example, there's going to be a major pure mobile client release for one of the Sage products next year. Microsoft has a number of third parties that do stuff, but not that are Microsoft-led right now, although I believe that's about to change with their new CRM release. There's going to be some deliberate effort on a mobile app for their next CRM release. So our final pillar of conversation, and we're coming up on 25 minutes, so thank you. Intelligence. This isn't easy. I love this. There are so many examples of this. My favorite example of this is I used to carry around a diary. And in my diary, I would write the birthdays of everybody that was important to me so I could remember them. And every year, I would get another diary, and I would transfer the birthdays from that one to the next one. Then somebody came up with the Filofax, which was genius, and then you didn't have to transfer it every year anymore. You could just keep a list of them. And now I get reminders about people's birthdays that I don't even know 3 times a day. The Internet has completely revolutionized the idea of intelligence. We spoke to Amazon earlier. Their ability to communicate with you on a proactive basis as a customer. Your order is not ready to ship. Your order is still not ready to ship. Your order is finally shipping. That stuff just happens, and it's beautiful. And if anybody's gone and played with IFTTT, the website, if this then that is what it's short for, they actually have a custom alert application that sits out there on the web, and you can basically build an alert recipe for things like, again, my example is always about the weather. It's the English in me, I don't know. But I have a custom one that tells me at 7 o'clock at night if it's going to rain the next day. and I get that automatically sent to me only under those conditions. It arrives as a text message on my cell phone, and then I know whether or not to get the motorbike gear out for the next morning. So I think in terms of intelligence, and we're talking about from a business perspective, it's not about birthdays, but it is about anniversaries, and it is about getting those updates and those reminders and those alerts and that data out on a proactive basis. ERP systems have been so good historically at storing lots and lots of data, but not making it very easy for you to do anything with it. And I think any application that you're looking at right now has to have an element of business intelligence in it, and by that I don't just mean dashboards and charts. I also mean the ability to alert you to things, to remind you of things, to have workflow capabilities, to extend again out to that mobile platform so I can get the email on my cell phone, approve the purchase order without ever leaving my cell phone. I think that kind of extensibility in around workflow, reminders, dashboards, and again, if your system doesn't do it, there are third parties out there. I mean, even Microsoft has SharePoint. It has workflow capabilities. It can be built into other things. There are lots of point solutions out there for document management, those kind of things. But in all of those areas, I think we have to look for ERP systems to be more intelligent in the way in which they're interacting with us rather than us interacting with them.
And I think the key aspect there is how to push out meaningful information to the right people so they can make improved business decisions and act on that information, as opposed to just putting data up there in a generic form. And workflow has always been a very complex tool to implement because it requires determining what information is relevant, how to access it, and then routing it to the right person, and then maintaining it over time, because organizations change on a daily basis in terms of who needs that information, who could approve it, etc. So you have to really look at workflow carefully, ensure that you're starting small, with some key areas that need to be addressed, and then building upon that, but always doing it in the light of how can I maintain it, how flexible is it, how customizable is it, and how easy is it to deploy.
And I guess to that point, I would ask both of you, in your experience so far, has it been mostly workflow and alert functionality within ERP applications or external third parties?
We see a lot of SharePoint.
Oh, yeah?
We see a lot of organizations connecting SharePoint to their back office systems, pulling some data out, and then whether it's pulling employee information and manager approval information and doing vacation approvals or procurement. We see third-party solutions being deployed because it's often a significant challenge to deploy workflow within ERP systems. They're complex, they're difficult to work with, and that expertise is limited out there as well, I think.
Yeah, the ERP systems, especially SAP, Oracle that I have worked, the workflow and alerts in all the projects I have seen, these have been deployed using the native SAP or Oracle. But I agree, these are the workflow and alerts. These are one of the most technically challenging areas to deploy, though. And I'm seeing more and more like, on the mobile apps as well now, various sorts of alerts are being built and are getting available slowly. So you get for various, it does need, proper setups, but you can get alerts on the receivable side, inventory side, on the sales side, and so on, or right on your mobile smartphone or tablet.
Yeah, I think you have to be very careful with workflow, you're right, and in terms of the complexity of that process, because when you start to dig into what really happens, typically because workflow is being controlled by people, it's very, very flexible within an organization, and as soon as you start to try and programmify that, whether that's inside the ERP application or using an external add-on, it can get really complicated really quickly, we tend to find. All right, well, we're at the half hour, so just to sum up very quickly, we truly believe that ERP is behind the curve in terms of keeping up with trends elsewhere in the technology world. The three areas we believe it needs to improve in are, firstly, its ease of use, secondly, its accessibility, and thirdly, its intelligence. and you should look and question all of those things if you're looking for a new application or if you're looking to improve what you have without necessarily replacing it. These are the areas where improvement is most desperately needed, and these are the areas where there are opportunities to do something new and to challenge your existing system and to extend it beyond what you thought it was capable of doing right now without necessarily having to go and invest in a brand new ERP system. So if you can't change it, try and find a new way of improving these three areas because for sure they need it. Thank you ever so much for your time. Just a quick slide at the end for contact details for everybody. So this is how you can get hold of us if you want to. We will be asking you a couple of questions on the way out of the webinar. If you would be so kind as to respond to those, we would be most grateful, and we will be sending out the recording of this and the ebook to everybody that attended and that couldn't attend. Thank you very much to my fellow panelists, to Walter and Puneet. And if anybody has any questions, please type them into the question box in the GoToWebinar, and I will read them out, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you ever so much. Does anyone have any questions? Or we can ask each other questions. Nobody seems to have any questions, so.
Grantley, just since our audience is mostly the accounting management and professionals today, I just thought there'll be maybe I can mention a couple of interesting apps that are available for the Tier 1 system that I'm familiar with.
Please do.
Okay, so. There is an accounting document approver mobile app available right now, which allows the finance management authorized accounting management people to view, approve, or reject the accounting documents. So you log in via your smartphone as an accounting document approver. And you can view, just as in your desktop ERP system, you can view right on your smartphone or tablet all the open batches, the general batches. You can drill down from those to the line item if you want to view any details of an accounting document, and then you can approve or reject those documents either individually or the whole batch right from your mobile device. So that's why I thought it would be interesting for our audience to know.
Absolutely, no, thank you for that. While we're on the topic of mobile devices, so if you don't have a BI application right now and you want to get something out very quickly to executives because they're demanding it, do go have a look at those guys at Roam BI. They are platform agnostic. They run on an iPad and an iPhone, and I think they've got an Android app now as well. And there is a free version you can download and play with. So if anybody's of a mind to do that, that's kicking around out there. There are many others like them. That's just one example. There are plenty of other BI tools out there for putting data on an iPad, which seems to be a fairly popular thing to do. Just a question to my panelists then while we're here. What is the single biggest mobile request that you're getting from organizations looking at ERP systems? What is it they're looking for? Are they looking for Salesforce, or are they to get salespeople mobile, or are they looking just to get BI out there for executives to look at cool graphs on their iPads? I mean, what is the biggest request?
I think the CRM and the business intelligence. These are the two. CRM, the sales, basically anything to help the sales folks in getting access to viewing the contacts and sales leads and turning that into orders right from their smartphone while they are on the go. And and as you alluded to, for the executives, it's definitely the business intelligence, ability to dial in and slice and dice information and get alerts in areas that they are interested in.
Every CEO that I deal with has an iPad, And if, in every IT department is pressured, and the CEO is asking for dashboards to the iPad, getting some key business metrics, daily sales, updated profit margin, alerts directly to their iPad. If an organization could do that, IT would be golden within the CEO's point of view.
We actually have a question here from Caroline. Caroline would like to know, and I'm guessing this is a question directly for Puneet, what the name of the document approval.
The name of the document is, it's for SAP document approval. SAP accounting document approval. So she
so
can,
it's actually part of the SAP ERP application?
Yeah, she can go to, it can be downloaded either from the SAP store, or she can even go to iTunes and download from iTunes.
Okay.
Obviously, you need to have the SAP core ERP running in the background.
Okay. Thank you. All right, if nobody else has any more questions, then our half hour is well and truly up. Thank you ever so much, Walter and Puneet. Look forward to doing this again. Oh, no, there was another question. Hang on. Okay, no. Thank you ever so much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Please answer the questions on the way out, and we'll be sending out the material shortly afterwards.
Great.
Thanks very much, Walter.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.